Hello, Racine. I'm here today. My name is Stephen Miller. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for Donald Trump. And I'm here today to talk to each and every one of you about the stakes in this election and to also tell you the truth and the whole truth that you have never heard before about Ted Cruz. In 2013, we had an epic battle in the United States Senate over the subject of immigration. I was in the Senate at the time. I was working for Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama. One of the great endorsements that we've had for Donald Trump. And in the amendment process in committee, in the Judiciary Committee, when we were working on that immigration bill, and we were trying to stop it and defeat it and to save the jobs and livelihoods of every single person out here today, what did Ted Cruz do? What he did has not been reported in any of the media outlets, including those here today. It hasn't been reported in the newspapers. You've probably never even heard about it or read about it. But I will tell you today what Ted Cruz did. Ted Cruz introduced an amendment to increase by 500% the number of foreign workers coming into the United States of America, competing against you and your children and your grandchildren and your brothers and sisters and neighbors for jobs. Low-wage foreign workers being brought in to take your place at less pay. Ted Cruz also introduced an amendment to double the number of Muslim migrants coming into this country, a 200% increase. He had no regard, no concern for how that amendment would affect the security of you and your family. He was happy to replicate here in the United States the same conditions we have in Germany and Belgium and across Europe with uncontrolled migration from the Middle East. That is the real legacy of Ted Cruz. Donald Trump is the only candidate in this race who's saying, let's pause these programs to protect the American people. How many of you have watched what's happened in Wisconsin with the increasing pace of refugee resettlement? Have you seen what's happened at local factories where jobs that should be going to the people of Wisconsin are instead going to refugees? Have you seen what's happened in the case of illegal immigration, with illegal immigrants being arrested in Wisconsin for the most heinous crimes imaginable? Just recently, an illegal immigrant was arrested in Wisconsin and charged with suffocation and strangling a resident of this state. And yet, you have a sanctuary city bill here in Wisconsin to crack down on sanctuary cities. And did you know that that bill stalled? That it's not moving in the Senate? Donald Trump is being opposed by political interests all across this country because he is the only candidate in this race who will protect our cities, who will protect our communities, who will save our families. Let's talk about another issue that affects the lives of every single person in this room and everybody that you care about. Raise your hand if you think manufacturing is important for the future of this state. Every single hand went up in the room. 1/5 of people in Wisconsin in the private sector are employed because of manufacturing. That's 20% of the state. And yet your middle class has shrunk more than any other state in this country. Why? Because your trade jobs have gone overseas. They've gone to China, they've gone to Mexico, they've gone to Japan, because our politicians have surrendered your jobs because they don't care about you. And there is no man in this country who has pushed harder to send your jobs overseas than Ted Cruz. In 2014, when we were fighting the epic battle over executive amnesty, Ted Cruz did an interview with the Wall Street Journal, and you know what he said? He said on the question of trade, he was eager, I quote, eager to give Barack Obama more authority. Can Wisconsin vote for a man who wants to give Obama more authority to send your jobs overseas? Because Ted Cruz will pass Obama's trade bill and he will sign the death warrant for the middle class of Wisconsin. And we will not let that happen. Will you let that happen? When we were fighting Obama's trade bill in 2015, Ted Cruz wrote an op-ed with Paul Ryan saying, give Obama the trade bill. He stood against you and every single working person in this country. Ted Cruz, when we were trying desperately to save our sovereignty, to save our independence as a country, Ted Cruz worked with Obama to pass Obama's trade bill, the Trade Promotion Authority, to give up our sovereignty, to give up the soul of this nation to a transnational commission, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is Ted Cruz's legacy, to take away your ability to control your own futures. These words, mark them down, tell them to your friends, tell them to your family. If Ted Cruz were to become the nominee of this party and become president, he will enact the Trans-Pacific Partnership and end forever a manufacturing middle class in America. We will not let that happen. Wisconsin has lost 70,000 jobs to China since 2000. China has been cheating on its currency. It's been subsidizing its products, including subsidizing paper, which is one of the most important industries in this state. Ted Cruz in 2011, when we were trying to crack down on China currency cheating, when Jeff Sessions was trying to crack down on China currency cheating, Ted Cruz sided with China. Will Wisconsin vote for a man who sides with China over America? No. In 2015, we tried again to stop Chinese currency cheating. And Ted Cruz said, no, let China cheat. We want the cheap goods. Do you want your jobs? Yes. Do you want Ted Cruz? We have a choice in this country. Will we break up the special interests and put American workers and Wisconsin workers first? I want to put something to you you may not have thought about. I'm sure you've seen in the news, on CNN and Fox and MSNBC, all the obsessive coverage, the anti-Trump coverage, and all the pundits coming on attacking Trump. And everybody crying their crocodile tears over Donald Trump's tone. We've all seen it, hour after hour after hour. And the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and the National Review, and the lobbyists, and the special interests, and the financiers. And they weep their tears over Donald Trump's tone. Well, let me tell you something. I had the chance to spend some time with a woman whose name you wouldn't learn about because of our corrupt political culture. Her name is Laura Wilkerson. Her child was brutally murdered by illegal immigrants. She said, why is it that people in Washington, D.C. are more upset about Mr. Trump's tone than about the death of my child? When Kate Steinle was murdered, did Washington weep for Kate? No. When we had Jim Steinle testify in front of Congress about his daughter's death, and Laura Wilkerson testified in front of Congress about her son Joshua's death, and many others testified about the death of their children, names you will never hear, names like Spencer Goldbach, shot in the side of the head, his father now a heartbroken man, names like Dustin Inman, who was brutally killed by an illegal immigrant now at large, names like Sarah Root, killed in January of this year by an illegal alien, released on the loose, now free, probably returned to their home country. Washington weeps no tears for these dead Americans. Washington weeps no tears for the parents and the sisters and the brothers who've lost their loved ones. No, instead Washington tells you, oh, we should be upset about Mr. Trump's tone. Understand this. The reason why they are trying to stop Donald Trump, the reason why all the special interests have aligned, the reason why Ted Cruz is trying to stop Donald Trump is because they know that Donald Trump is the only man who threatens their power. He is the only man who threatens their control over our immigration policies so they can keep pushing your wages down. Donald Trump is the only man who threatens a policy of mass migration, destabilizing our middle class. He's the only one who threatens a trade policy of offshoring that enriches the select few at your expense. This is your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will never come again. This is your once-in-a-lifetime chance to say, no, we are going to stand up for American citizens. We are going to stand up for American jobs. We are going to stand up for our neighbors that we love who need jobs, and our friends that we love who need security, and our children whom we love that need a better future. And we are going to tell the sanctimonious special interests who have bled this country die, who have allowed criminal cartels to terrorize our communities, who have allowed refugees to pour in, threatening us with terrorism. We are going to tell all of these special interests. We are going to tell pro-amnesty, pro-Obama trade Ted Cruz, no, we are going to vote for Donald Trump, and we are going to save our middle class and our country. Will you turn out on Tuesday for Donald J. Trump? Will you vote yes to put jobs and wages for Wisconsin first? Will you vote yes to make American communities safe again? And will you vote yes to put back in charge of this country not the Wall Street cronies, the offshoring special interests of pro-amnesty, pro-Obama trade Ted Cruz, but will you vote to give control to your sons, your daughters, your neighbors, your friends, and yourself? Will you vote to put Wisconsin and the American citizens back in control of their future again? God bless all of you, and it is now my pleasure.